I still remember that night. The house was quiet. The rain was touching the windows softly, the way it does when it wants your heart to slow down. And I was sitting alone at the dining table, staring at a cup of tea I had made hours ago. The steam was gone. The warmth was gone. And, in a strange way, a part of me felt the same. My husband, Daniel, walked into the room with a look I had never seen before. A kind of heaviness. A kind of fear. Something that made me put the cup down without even thinking. He sat across from me, folding his hands, looking at the table, then at the door, then at me. I could hear the sound of the clock behind him. Tick, tick, tick. Every second felt louder than the last. And then he said my name. Anna. Just my name. But the way he said it, something inside me knew this moment was going to change everything. I took a slow breath. I tried to stay calm. He looked like someone who had carried a weight for too long, and tonight, he could not hold it anymore. He placed something on the table. A small envelope. Old, a little torn, like it had traveled far, or maybe it had been hidden for years. He pushed it toward me with trembling hands. His voice softened. Need to tell you something about my past. My heart felt tight. Not fast. Just tight, like someone was pressing it gently but firmly. I did not open the envelope. I just looked at him, waiting. He swallowed hard, closed his eyes for a moment, and whispered something I never expected to hear from the man I had shared more than a decade of my life with. It's about someone I loved, before you. Someone I never told you about. And there's a reason I hid it. The rain became louder. My breath became slower. In that moment, I didn't feel anger. I didn't feel shock. I only felt a deep, quiet ache, the kind that comes when a truth is too big to understand in one heartbeat. I leaned back in my chair. The room felt colder. And all I could think was, why now? Why after all these years? Why tonight? That was the night everything changed. That was the night I learned that even the person you sleep beside, eat with, laugh with, cry with, can still carry a secret that does not belong to you. And what he confessed next shocked me. That I want to take you back, long before that night, long before the envelope, long before the confession. Because a secret does not appear suddenly. It grows. It waits. It hides in the corners of daily life, under the rhythm of laughter, among the small joys of a home. Daniel and I had been married for 12 years. 12 soft, imperfect, human years. We were not a storybook couple. We argued sometimes. We disagreed about silly things. He liked his coffee strong. I liked mine mild. He forgot anniversaries. I remembered everything. But we loved each other. At least. I thought we did. And maybe we did, just not in the same way. Our home was small, warm, and filled with the kind of memories that make you smile without trying. Photos on the walls. A cracked vase we kept because it belonged to his grandmother. A bookshelf that leaned slightly because Daniel had assembled it without reading the instructions. We lived a quiet life. He worked in an office, a calm, gentle man who preferred silence over crowds. I worked from home as a freelance designer, spending my days between creativity and cooking and waiting for him to return. Nothing dramatic. Nothing loud. Just life. But looking back now, I can see the moments where something felt off, moments I ignored because love makes you gentle with the truth. Like the way he sometimes stared at old photographs on his laptop, then quickly closed the screen when I walked into the room. But I placed it back gently, exactly where I found it. I did not ask him. I did not accuse him. I trusted him. Or maybe I did not want to disturb the life we had built. Sometimes, silence feels safer than the truth. There were other small signs too. Moments I brushed aside. Moments I told myself did not matter. The phone calls he ignored. The messages he read and then deleted. The nights he came home quieter than usual. I would touch his shoulder and ask, "Everything okay?" He would smile and say, "Just tired." And I believed him. Because love does not look for shadows. It looks for light. Then, 3 months before his confession, something changed. A shift so small, so quiet, I almost missed it. He began writing again. Daniel used to write poetry when he was younger. Small verses. Soft words. A habit from his college days. But after we married, he stopped. He said he had outgrown it. Yet suddenly, he began staying awake late into the night, typing gently on his laptop. When I asked him what he was writing, he smiled in a way that did not reach his eyes and said, "Nothing important. Just thoughts." I wanted to believe him. I did believe him. But something in my chest felt unsettled. Maybe that is what marriage does. It gives you a map of a person's heart. And even when they don't speak, you can feel when something moves inside them. But still, I said nothing. And that silence became the bridge that carried us toward the night when everything changed. The weeks before the confession were strangely quiet. Ot the peaceful kind of quiet. A heavier one, like the silence that comes before rain. Daniel moved through our home like a man who was present in body but far away in thought. He spoke gently, but his eyes often drifted toward the window, as if he was waiting for someone or something. One evening, while I was folding clothes in the living room, I noticed him standing at the hallway mirror. Not adjusting his shirt. Not brushing his hair. As if he was searching for something in his own reflection. When he noticed me, he smiled in a tired way. But I could see it, the ache behind the smile. "Long day?" I asked softly. "Very long," he said. But his voice didn't carry the usual warmth. He walked over, kissed my forehead, and disappeared into the bedroom. I stood there holding a towel in my hand, staring at the closed door. A small voice inside me whispered that something was slipping through my fingers, but I ignored it. I told myself not to think too much. Not to worry. Not to disturb whatever storm was slowly growing inside him. But storms do not stay hidden forever. 2 days later, I found him sitting on the balcony with a notebook on his lap. His handwriting filled page after page, small, careful letters written with so much emotion that I could almost feel them from far away. I stepped closer. He quickly shut the notebook. I told myself it was normal. Everyone deserves privacy. Even between husband and wife. But my heart, it felt something else. A small sting. A quiet alarm. "Are you writing poetry again?" I asked, trying to sound cheerful. He nodded slowly. "Just a few thoughts. Nothing serious." I wanted to ask, thoughts about what? But I didn't. I was afraid of the answer. Instead, I sat beside him and leaned my head on his shoulder. His body was warm, but his mind felt miles away. After a few minutes, he whispered, "Do you think people can love twice in their lifetime?" The air went still. I lifted my head slowly. He wasn't looking at me. He was looking at the sky. A part of me wanted to pretend I hadn't heard him. A part of me wanted to smile and say something light. But I couldn't. "Why are you asking?" I whispered. He sighed, a long, deep sigh. "I don't know. Just thinking." But I felt a crack inside me. Small. Quiet. But real. That night, after he fell asleep, I opened the balcony door again and looked at the chair where he had been sitting. The notebook was still there. My fingers hovered above it. But I didn't touch it. Love, real love, is not built on searching through someone's secrets. It is built on trust. So I closed the door and walked away. But the ache inside me grew. A few days later, the phone rang late at night. We rarely got calls after 10 p.m. Daniel's hand reached for the phone quickly, almost urgently. He looked at the screen. Paused. Then shut the phone off without answering. Who was it? I asked softly. No one, he said. Too quickly. He stood up and walked out of the room. Not angry. Not annoyed. Just running from something. I sat there staring at the black phone screen, feeling a heaviness in my chest. That same night, when he thought I was asleep, I felt him leave the bed quietly. His footsteps moved to the living room. The soft glow of his laptop screen lit the hallway. He stayed awake for hours. I lay there with open eyes, listening to the click of the keyboard. Slow. Thoughtful. Painful. Something inside me whispered that this story was about to take a turn I was not ready for. But I stayed in bed. Still. Silent. Afraid of the truth staring at both of us. The next morning, while he was taking a shower, his phone lit up. A message preview appeared. Just a name. Just 3 letters. Leah. My chest tightened. Not because the name meant anything to me, but because he had never mentioned anyone by that name in all our years together. The message disappeared before I could read the full text. I stood there frozen, holding a plate in my hand, staring at the phone like it was a door to a world I didn't want to enter. I didn't open it. I placed it gently on the table. But my hands trembled. For days, Daniel moved around me like a man carrying a weight that grew heavier each hour. He was kind. Gentle. Soft-spoken. But distant. Like the way you hold a warm mug but feel the heat fading slowly. I could feel him slipping away, inch by inch, even while he was right beside me. And then, one evening, something happened that pushed everything toward the truth. I found him in the bedroom holding that small faded photograph of the woman by the lake. He didn't hear me enter the room. He touched the edge of the photo softly. As if touching a memory. His eyes looked sad. Lost. Full of longing. I took a deep breath and stepped closer. Daniel, I said quietly. He turned quickly, hiding the photo behind his back like a child caught with something fragile. Anna. But his voice broke. Tears filled his eyes. And for the first time in our marriage, I saw him look guilty. Terribly, painfully guilty. That was the moment I knew the truth was no longer a shadow. It was stepping into the light. I sat on the edge of the bed. He sat too, still holding the photograph behind him. Who is she? I asked gently. He didn't answer. He stared at the floor as if the answer lived there. The silence between us felt long and heavy. Not now, please. And I nodded. Because I could see he was breaking. But inside me, something else was breaking too. The distance between us grew like a quiet wall neither of us wanted but both of us felt. He began coming home later. Not suspiciously late. Just late enough to hurt in small ways. He forgot small conversations. He drifted during dinners. He stared at his phone too long. One night, we were eating in silence when he suddenly put his spoon down and said, Anna, do you think people heal from their past? Truly heal? I looked at him slowly. Maybe, I said. Or maybe they just learn to live with it. He nodded, like someone who knew the truth too well. After dinner, he stepped outside for a walk. He did not ask me to join him. I watched from the window as he paced slowly across the street, his hands in his pockets, his head slightly lowered. He looked like a man fighting with himself. A man preparing for a confession he never wanted to make. 3 days later came the night of the envelope. The rain. The silence. The trembling hands. The beginning of the truth. And what he confessed shocked me in a way I still don't know how to describe. That he sat across from me at the dining table with the small torn envelope between us. His eyes were red. Not from crying, from holding back tears he didn't want me to see. The rain outside filled the silence. Soft. Steady. Almost comforting, if the moment had not been so heavy. He pushed the envelope toward me again. "Anna, before you open it, I need to speak." I nodded. My throat felt tight. Not from fear. From sadness. He took a deep breath, closing his eyes for a moment as if gathering courage. "When I met you," he began slowly, "I was healing from someone. Someone I never told you about. Someone I thought I had left behind." His hands trembled slightly. Her name was Leah. My chest tightened at the name I had seen on his phone. "She was important to me," he continued. "Very important. More than I ever." He looked down. "I should have told you. I know that now." I swallowed gently. "Why didn't you?" He took another breath, deep, shaky. "Because I thought, if I didn't speak about her, if I buried the memories, they would fade. I thought loving you would make everything disappear." He paused, his voice softer. "And I did love you, Anna. I still do. But I did not enter this marriage with a clean heart. Part of me was still held by the past." My eyes filled with tears I didn't let fall. "Who was she?" I whispered. He looked at the envelope. Then at me. "She was someone I loved, before you. We were together for years. We planned a future. We were serious. And then, one day, she disappeared from my life." He tightened his fingers. "She left without a goodbye. Without an explanation. I tried to move on. I tried everything. But I carried the hurt with me. I listened quietly. My heart too full to speak. When I met you," he said, "you brought peace into my life. You brought a calm I had never felt. I thought, maybe this is the new beginning I needed." "That sounds like a good thing," I whispered, almost scared of where the story was going. He nodded slowly. "It was. But I wasn't honest with you. I didn't tell you that sometimes, memories of her returned. Especially in the early years of our marriage. I felt my breath tremble. Not from anger. From heartbreak. Are you saying you never loved me fully?" I asked softly. He shook his head quickly. "No. No, Anna. Please don't think that. I loved you in a different way. A better way, I think. But I never allowed myself to face my past. I hid it. Buried it. And buried things find their way back." I looked at the envelope on the table. "What's inside?" He hesitated. "A letter," he said, "from her." The room grew still. My fingertips tingled. My breath felt shallow. "When did you receive it?" I asked. He closed his eyes for a moment. 3 months ago." My heart dropped. 3 months. The time he had become distant. Quiet. Restless. Awake late at night. Holding old photographs. Writing again. 3 months. I forced my voice to stay steady. "And you didn't tell me?" He whispered. I was scared. I didn't know what she wanted. I didn't know how to explain something I never should have hidden. My hands folded tightly in my lap. What does the letter say? He looked down, guilt filling his face. She wrote that she wanted to talk. That she wanted to meet before she moved away again. She said she needed closure, and she said I deserved it too. A tear escaped his eye. He wiped it away quickly. I didn't meet her. I swear. I didn't answer. I didn't respond. But the letter, it opened every door I had closed years ago. And I've been fighting with myself ever since. My voice came out smaller than I expected. Why didn't you tell me earlier? He took my hand gently, his voice breaking. Because I didn't want to lose you. My heart cracked quietly. He continued. The more I stayed silent, the harder it became to speak. I hated myself for hiding it. I hated the distance it created between us. But tonight, I couldn't carry it anymore. He leaned back, tears finally escaping. I'm not asking for forgiveness, he whispered. I'm asking for honesty between us. Real honesty. Even if it hurts. Even if it changes us. I stared at the envelope. The truth I had feared. The truth he had carried. Can I read it? I asked. He nodded slowly. My fingers touched the envelope, feeling the rough edges, the faint scent of paper that had been held too many times. When I opened it, I saw her handwriting. Soft. Graceful. Emotional. And as I read the first line, everything inside me shifted. The letter felt light in my hands, but my heart felt heavy. Every word I was about to read had lived somewhere between my marriage and his past for 3 months. 3 long, quiet months. I unfolded the paper slowly, almost afraid of the sound it made. Daniel watched me with eyes full of fear, fear of losing me, fear of hurting me, fear of something he could not name. The handwriting was delicate. Soft curves. Careful spaces. The kind of writing a gentle person would have. I read the first line. Daniel, I hope this reaches you, because there is a part of your past that belongs to you, not me. My breath caught. I continued. I am leaving the country next month, and before I go, I need to say something I carried for years. You deserve the truth, even if the truth comes late. I felt Daniel shift slightly in his chair, but he didn't speak. He let me continue. I want you to know that I did love you. Deeply. But I left because I was young and scared. Scared of a future I didn't feel ready for. Scared of losing myself. Scared of hurting you more later. My fingers trembled. I disappeared because I thought disappearing would be kinder than breaking your heart slowly. I looked up at him. His eyes were lowered. His jaw tightened. A man who had carried this pain for too long. I returned to the letter. I heard you got married. I am happy you found peace. You always deserved peace. A tear slipped down my cheek, not because of jealousy, but because of the honesty. The rawness that I have no wish to disturb your life. I only want to give you the closure I never gave you. I am sorry, Daniel. Truly. You were a good man. You still are. The last line read. If you ever feel the need to talk, not for us, but for you. I will be in this city until the 15th. After that, I leave for good. Leah. When I finished reading, my hands stayed still on the table. The rain had stopped outside. Silence filled the room again. But this silence was different. Not heavy. Not frightening. Just honest. I looked at Daniel. He lifted his eyes slowly, carefully, as if afraid of what he might see in mine. She didn't ask you for anything, I said softly. Just closure. He nodded. I know. And you didn't meet her? No. His voice was steady. I wanted to tell you before doing anything. But the longer I waited, the harder it became. I took a deep, slow breath. I'm not hurt because she wrote, I whispered. I'm hurt because you hid it. Daniel's face broke. A quiet shame passed through him. I know. And I am sorry, Anna. I'm sorry for the silence. I'm sorry for the distance. I'm sorry for making you feel like there was something wrong with you. There wasn't. It was me. My past. My fear. We sat like that for a long moment. Both of us breathing slowly. Both of us trying to understand the pain in the room. Finally, I spoke again. Tell me everything, Daniel. Please. Not the short version. Not the safe version. Tell me everything you couldn't say before. He nodded. And he did that. He told me how he met Leah in college. How she was quiet but strong. How she loved the lake near campus. How she believed in love that grew slowly, like trust. He told me how they dreamed of a small house one day. A simple life. Very much like the one we were living now. He told me how she started feeling overwhelmed, by work, by family, by the fear of being tied to a future she didn't feel ready for. How she pulled away. How he tried to hold on. How she eventually broke down and left without warning. How he waited at the lake for hours, thinking she would return. But she didn't. He explained that when he met me, he felt calm again. Safe again. He wasn't comparing. He wasn't replacing. He was healing. I loved you because you brought peace to my life, he said quietly. You gave me something I didn't know how to give myself after she left. I listened without interrupting. And I stopped thinking about her for a long time, he continued. Until the letter arrived. And it opened old wounds I didn't want to show you. I nodded slowly. I understand. And I did. More than he knew. Pain does not erase love. Love does not erase pain. Sometimes they live together in the same heart. When he finished speaking, Daniel reached for my hand. Slowly. Carefully. As if asking permission. I didn't pull away. I don't want to lose you, he whispered. I will do whatever it takes to rebuild your trust. But I need you to know. I am not that man anymore. I am not living in the past. I just didn't know how to handle it when the past knocked on my door again. I closed my eyes for a moment. I could feel the sadness. But I could also feel the truth. His truth. My truth. Our truth. And truth, even when painful, brings light. I opened my eyes and looked right at him. I'm not leaving, I said gently. But I need time, Daniel. Time to understand this part of you. Time to forgive the silence. He nodded, tears forming again. I'll give you all the time you need. The way he said it, with softness, not desperation, made something inside me relax. We sat in silence again. But this time, it was not a silence of fear. It was the silence of two people who finally put their shadows on the table and looked at them. That night, we didn't sleep much. Not because we argued, we didn't. There were no raised voices. No anger. Just long, quiet conversations. Long pauses. Soft breaths. Hands reaching slowly for each other, then letting go, then reaching again. The kind of night that feels like you're rebuilding something piece by piece. And in a strange way, I felt closer to him than I had in months. Because honesty, even when it arrives late, is still a gift. The days that followed were gentle. He stayed close. Not out of guilt. But out of care. We cooked together again. We sat on the balcony together again. He wrote in his notebook, but this time he showed me his pages, small poems about forgiveness. About healing. About beginning again. And for the first time, I didn't feel like his past was a ghost living in our home. It was just a chapter. A chapter that shaped him. A chapter he should have told me about earlier, yes. But a chapter that no longer threatened our story. One afternoon, while folding laundry, I found the photo of Leah again in his drawer. I held it for a moment. The woman by the lake looked peaceful. And for the first time, I felt no jealousy. Only understanding. I placed the photo back carefully. Some memories belong to the past. Not to erase, not to worship, but to honor. Daniel never replied to her letter. He told me he didn't need closure from her anymore. Because telling me the truth gave him the closure he needed. Life didn't magically become perfect after that night. We still had moments of insecurity. Moments where I wondered if a part of him still lived near that lake in his memory. But he always reassured me. With gentle words. With honest conversations. With small acts of love that felt more meaningful now than ever. Because now, he wasn't loving me with a divided heart. He was loving me with a heart that had finally faced its past. And me? I learned something too. People carry stories we do not see. Stories shaped by time. Stories shaped by pain. Stories shaped by love that came before us. Those stories do not make our place smaller. They make our partner human. Hurt comes when truth is buried. Healing comes when truth is shared. And love, real love, survives truth. It grows through it. On a quiet evening, months later, Daniel sat beside me on the couch. He took my hand gently and whispered, "Thank you for staying." I leaned my head on his shoulder. "I stayed because you finally let me see all of you." He kissed my forehead. And in that moment, I realized something. A marriage is not made of perfect stories. It is made of honest ones. Even when they arrive late. Even when they hurt. Because love does not ask for a past without scars. It only asks for a future built on truth. And when he confessed that night, yes, it shocked me. Yes, it hurt me. But it also opened a door to a deeper kind of love I never expected to find. A love born not from perfection, but from honesty. And that kind of love stays.